Kenyans go to the polls in August, and this year on the ballot, there is an unusually large number of independent candidates.
Nigeria's agricultural officials look to turn yams into a meaningful foreign exchange earner through a new export policy.
And telling Africa's story to international audiences through film and film festivals. Africa 54 starts right now.
So at Channels Television here in Lagos. Stay with us in the next half hour for our stories from near and far. And we're coming to you from two continents as we say hello to my colleague at the Voice of America.
Well, thanks a lot, Chamberlain. I'm Vincent McCory coming to you from our global headquarters at Studio 51 here in Washington. Now, to start our show this time, a discussion about supporting Nigeria's agriculture sector and what some agripreneurs are up to now. Chamberlain has the details.
The Federal Ministry of Agriculture is looking to turn yams into a leading foreign exchange earner through a newly launched export policy. While some fear that the policy could lead to shortage of the staple, farmers say they are ready to increase production with the necessary support. Here's more on the story.
According to the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, Nigeria accounts for over 60% of world yam production and 73.8% in Africa, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Yet, Nigeria is not particularly famous amongst the yam exporting nations of the world. Leveraging Nigeria's comparative advantage is the reason the federal government has started yam exportation to countries in Europe and the US. The launch of the first shipment of 72 tons of yam from Lagos sets the ball rolling. The technical committee of the program reels out some of the working plans, which includes offshore processing.
We are thinking about a warehouse in London, a warehouse in Toronto, a warehouse in Houston to do tubers and flour, yam flour. Then we're also thinking about a warehouse in Guangzhou, China for yam chips. The purpose of this work plan is such that those who want to key into this program can always find places where they can come in to assist us.
For the Minister of Agriculture, fears that exporting the staple food could lead to food shortages is understandable. But he says rather than affecting food security, exporting the crop will curb wastage from the farms.
I have seen people saying, we are hungry and you are exporting our yams. And quite frankly, I appreciate the point they are making, but the truth is, the yams we export will in no way diminish the quantity at home. Indeed, most of the yams we produce rot away. New yams are about to come out. Am I right, farmers? And yet the old stock is still everywhere. So most of the yams we produce actually rot away.
Yam is grown in about every state in the country. However, Benue State, described as the food basket of the nation, is the largest producer. Farmers in the state say they're willing to join the government's new drive by increasing production with adequate support.
If we get a tractor and to make our farm through mechanizations, we can farm plenty so that the food will be enough for our place so that we cannot suffer for hunger.
If that exportation stuff must continue, must be the benefit, or then the Benue farmer must be encouraged.
As the country strives to move away from oil dependence in line with market realities, yam export from Nigeria is poised to boost the country's share of global export market as well as her foreign exchange.
Let's talk more now about financing in agriculture, and for that we're joined by Rotimi Olawale, an agripreneur. Thank you for coming on Africa 54 today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, speaking about financing for that sector, it's very key. We know how crucial it is. Could you give us an overview? How do you think we're faring in this sector at the moment?
Currently, I would say we're not doing bad. There's room for improvement anyway. Like we know, agri has been a major sector in Nigeria in the 1970s. It accounted for over 70% of jobs we have in this country. but the dependence on oil brought about the regression we had in the agri sector. But now I think the agri is coming up because the global oil market is falling. So it's good news for agri, it's coming up, but definitely we need to scale up finance also for the agri sector.
I know that the federal government has, they speak a lot about these kind of things.
Yeah.
What viable options would you say exist at the moment?
Currently, I don't think, because the government has been talking about they are broke, you know, the government doesn't have money for now. So I think the private sector has a lot of role to play in this, and then development agencies across the world, because the only way they escape out of this economic crisis in Nigeria now is to diversify the economy, and the agri sector is actually a major way, a major sector we can go into. The government can actually look at issuing an agri bond. I think in 2012, the Minister of Agriculture, now the President of African Development Bank, raised this issue of agri bond. We have infrastructural bonds where you raise capital for infrastructures, but we can do this for the agri sector also, where you get people, investors, to put in money and then to finance agri projects, because it's very important. That's the only escape route in Nigeria today.
And there's also talk about getting single-digit interest loans for agri purposes. How far away or close are we to that?
Well, I've not been following that keenly, but I think it's very important, because most development agencies globally, it's good you to make finance easy for farmers, because why most farmers can't get credit today in Nigeria is because, one, the issue of collateral. Secondly, the interest rates are exorbitant. They are rising, and it's unbearable for farmers. So I think it's very key that the regulator, that central bank, is able to bring this down, so that, and even for commercial banks, they need to be a benchmark whereby it's single digit for all farmers to get. So in that way, people are able to access finance for agri business, because most of our farmers, I think over 70% of farmers in Nigeria are subsistence farmers, and then they produce 90% of what we eat in the country. So for them to do more, they need finance, and if the interest rates are low, definitely they will be interested to get more finance, then improve their productivity.
And speaking about another key component in the whole cycle, the chain, storage is a very critical one. What do we do about sorting this so that farmers don't keep recording losses?
Well, one key thing, I agree with you that storage is a major issue, because in my journey across the country, I've been to some states. For example, when you get to Benue, farmers they don't care if their goods get spoiled, because there are no infrastructure, no good roads to bring them to town. So and then no storage facility. So now, on the issue of storage, I think number one thing is we have to enhance processing. That's one key thing, because you can, even as you're thinking of storage, you also have to think of how you can process some of these things and keep them for the next season. Then secondly, we have to think of silos, another means of storage across the country. There's always this time of the planting season where you have surplus. So when the surplus goes and this time of scarcity comes, how do you sustain? That's why, for example, around this time of the year, June, July, August, you have surplus of corn across the nation. But when it gets to the later part of the year, then it becomes very expensive. Last year, for example, we were selling corn per ton almost 150,000, because it was scarce. So if we had enough storage when it was surplus, we would have been able to, enjoy during the time of scarcity.
All right, we thank you for coming on. Rotimi Olawale is an agripreneur, and thank you for coming on Africa 54 today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, independents are making their mark in a big way in the upcoming general election in Kenya. We'll have that story when we come right back.